And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for July 22nd. Tropical Storm Douglas intensifying in the eastern Pacific, and Tropical Depression 7 has formed in the Atlantic Ocean in the last few hours. Day 204 of the year so far, we're up to 35 storms, and Douglas could become the first hurricane of the Pacific hurricane season. Day 52 of Atlantic hurricane season though, and 7L will probably become the next named storm. That would be Gonzalo, and it will enter the eastern Caribbean, probably die off there. 30% chance in the Gulf still for that other system. Day 69 in the eastern Pacific, and Douglas is there. We did an update on that earlier on the Force 13 channel, and that's headed towards Hawaii slowly but surely. No systems active in the western Pacific at this time. It's still incredibly quiet here, uncannily quiet in the western Pacific, and in the southwest Indian Ocean we've still got that 30% chance for an area of interest that's located in the western half of the ocean there, to the northeast of Madagascar, likely to develop, if it did, near the Seychelles. So here's Tropical Depression 7, 35 mile an hour winds, pressure of 1008, CDPS stage 2, 1,291 miles east-southeast of Barbados right now. And this is the projected forecast track over the next 5 days or so. You can see it becoming a tropical storm before the next 24 hours is over, and then it will move pretty close to Barbados and then moving through St. Vincent and the Grenadines into the eastern Caribbean, and then dying off, we expect, towards the central Caribbean around day 5. Here's the current look at the Atlantic then. Those two disturbances that we're watching right now, 7L on the right hand side, that's the smallish cyclone in the central Atlantic, and the 30% system over there, which is stemming from Cuba, but its main chance to develop is over the Gulf of Mexico itself, and there you can see it's starting to enter the Gulf proper, and that's where it will have a little bit of a chance to develop. So there's Douglas in the eastern Pacific, looking not too bad. It's also a fairly small system. You can also see the remnants of 7E as well to its northwest. They won't really affect the Hawaiian Islands, but Douglas itself, models hinting that it could strike Hawaii, may even make a landfall on the Big Island, perhaps with winds of around 60 miles per hour. Speculative at the moment though, so we'll see if that changes. The western Pacific, very quiet, but there are a few thunderstorms blowing up around the Philippine Islands and also very close to Micronesia, the island of Yap, and over Palau as well. Looks like some thunderstorms brewing there, but nothing of a tropical cyclone nature. In the southern hemisphere, this is the South Pacific right now, a few thunderstorms blowing up and quite a bit of precipitation over Queensland in Australia as well. And in the Indian Ocean, this is what it's looking like right now. You can start to see that potential cyclone developing there, a little bit of a spin, still odds against, but a 30% chance nonetheless on that one. Sea surface temperatures in the eastern Pacific, a little bit warmer now near the eastern part of Mexico. And you can see just about the Gulf of Mexico there as well, 30-degree waters extending towards the western part of the Gulf now. And large areas above 30 degrees now along the Atlantic coast, around the coast of Florida, the Bahamas, Cuba, over to Hispaniola as well. The Caribbean itself, 28 degrees plus over a very large area, almost entirely the whole of the Caribbean Sea and the Gulf of Mexico and beyond. The Indian Ocean looking very much unchanged as to what we've seen recently, although a warmer pocket developing near the Andaman Islands where there could be a disturbance next week. And in the western Pacific, again, those sea surface temperatures very warm. Extremely quiet July in the western Pacific doesn't necessarily mean that the rest of the season will be quiet. It might come back with a vengeance. We'll have to wait and see. 28 degrees, still extending all the way up to Kyushu in Japan. Sea surface temperature anomalies, you can see just how warm it is above average in the South China Sea over there, and in the eastern Pacific off the Baja California Peninsula, despite the La Nina event that's still ongoing. And the Atlantic Ocean, the eastern part looks to be the warmest in the tropics, and the Gulf Stream very warm off the coast of the US East Coast right now as well. Well, there isn't enough satellite imagery yet of 7L to make a animation, so we're looking at Douglas still at this point. You can see how much it's been developing today, As a matter of fact, the answer isn't that much. It has stalled in intensity recently, but the National Hurricane Center do expect that it will become a hurricane strength storm in the next 24 hours and could reach Category 2 status. We haven't seen a single hurricane in the Eastern Pacific so far, so that would be quite a difference, and it is the 8th tropical depression numbered cyclone, and only 4 of them have gone on to become a tropical storm, and none of them went on to become a hurricane so far. This might buck that trend on what has really been a very difficult start for the Eastern Pacific. It's really been struggling so far. And here's a look this time at 7L in the Atlantic. HWRF going off the deep end there, calling for a Category 2 on days 3 through 5, but other models staying rather low. One thing that's in its favour is wind shear, which is very low pretty much through the whole period, down to 10 or below knots. Sea surface temperatures are going to rise, relative humidity is staying around average, so I don't see much stopping this from becoming a significant tropical cyclone in the sense of a tropical storm, but remains to be seen just how far it will get. Looking back on July 22nd, 1997, Typhoon Rosie was peaking as a Category 5, one of so many that year in the Western Pacific. Danny was inland over Alabama now, having made landfall on the US Gulf Coast a few days ago. Felicia was dying in the Eastern Pacific, and Cyclone 1S had formed in the South Indian Ocean. Might history repeat itself, at least in that regard, if nothing else this year compared to 1997. So the next name on the Atlantic naming list could be about to arrive very soon. It will be Gonzalo, followed by Hannah. In the Eastern Pacific, the next names are Elida and Fausto. In the Central Pacific, the next name on list 1 is Hone. In the Westpac, Sinlaku is next on their naming list, followed by Hagapit, and in the North Indian Ocean, the next names on list 1, that brand new list by the way, are Gati and Nivar. In the Southern Hemisphere, in the Southwest Indian Ocean, if we did get that first storm, it would be called Alicia, and in the Australian region, the next name on the list there is Imogen. In the South Pacific, Yolanda is next up for anything that affects that area. We'll have another tropical weather bulletin tomorrow. Check out our new look cyclone tracker on the Force 13 website for the latest up-to-date information. You can also find us, of course, on our YouTube channel, search Force 13, and also on Facebook and Twitter, Force 13 at Force 13 on Twitter for the latest updates. You can also help the project become even better by becoming an Ultimate Fan on YouTube. To see the full list of Ultimate Fan benefits and to join, visit youtube.com/Force13/join. With a special thanks to our top supporters this month. You can also check out our growing merch store so you can show Force 13's colours wherever you go. You can also find a link to our Discord server underneath this video in the description.